Mexico MTC?
7944.
Because you're international.
Yeah, exactly. I
Sick.
am 7954.
And he had a Spanish-speaking team in New York, right?
173
Jersey, which is
treble 8
That's cool, man.
888. Yeah, and then my
And you have an older daughter, she
Insta,
lives...
Bex,
Oh, yeah, cool.
But she's actually moving, she and her
BEX
stepped into BYU.
Cool.
underscore bowls.
That's close to Provo, right?
It's in Provo.
Yeah.
Email? Or not
Do you
bother?
like to receive emails?
No,
So don't do
probably
it.
not. Yeah, fine.
If you put your email, you
I'm
might.
gonna wait for Rebecca for a second.
Get
Someone might
emails.
use it.
Stupid, I love it.
Cool, guys.
It doesn't fit.
Just put the
Okay.
timer on.
Okay, I'll go back out there for a moment. Amazing, look, I love it. Okay.
So, we're going to talk about leadership. And
Perfect, you do anything.
when you guys hear the word leadership, what are the first thoughts that
Okay.
come up in your mind? What's leadership? What is it about? Hey, Rebecca, you're
Hi,
here too.
by stage.
And our special guest,
Yeah,
Rebecca.
Thanks. Yeah. First thoughts about leadership. Inspiring, yes. Yes.
You learn how to be a leader and have followers to do what we are doing.
Yes, yeah. Great.
And you find the space, what direction my frontline of where they want to go.
Yeah.
What they want to do.
Okay, so yeah, thinking about others, getting inspiration for others. Yes. Love that. Anything else? Yeah. Oh, that's the printing.
Hey, this is way too much sound.
Anything else
It's way too
comes
much
to
noise.
mind when you think of leadership?
You make too much noise.
Servant. Example.
And then first follower, I don't know if you, first follower?
First follower.
Nice.
Okay.
This shirtless dancing guy, have you guys seen that?
No.
What?
No.
The guy dancing on the mountain?
The YouTube video for the shirtless dancing guy?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. Oh,
Yeah, it's
cool.
super funny.
You might have to explain that now.
It's probably the oldest YouTube video that went viral, I think.
It's like this guy that like, there's this guy and he's dancing at a concert all by himself.
Okay.
And he looks like a lone nut.
Yeah.
And then he is a lone nut
Yeah.
until he has a first follower. And then
Yes.
when the first follower comes, like, it transformed the lone nut into a leader.
Yes.
But then other people followed after the first follower, and so
He's gonna find it. He's gonna find
that's
it. Okay.
And you'd
What we
have to-
prepared
you'd
for you
have
guys.
to-
This is
you'd
Willem.
have to, like, listen to the narration is the most
Is the key
important.
point. Okay. Cool.
This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out, you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. The leader is the flint. The first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. Three is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
That's the end. That's brilliant. Perfect. Oh, that's brilliant.
Before the age of iPhone. Really shaking.
I love that. Like, a few things stood out to me from that we didn't discuss the last time. Was leadership was often quite lonely. You know, at the beginning, it is you need to be willing to be able to be alone and be okay with that. And we'll come on to more about that, but that really stood out to me. And then treating others as equals. Those are my two things. Did anyone else? Yeah.
So, risking the
Risking
ridicule.
ridicule.
So what makes you say you have to be a good follower before you can lead?
Well, I mean, I'd say that the greatest leader in the history of the world would probably be Jesus Christ, if you were to look at the impact of that person's life on the rest of the world. And even he would say, I'm only doing that which my Father told me to do. So he was like a perfect follower. And because he was such a great follower, he was an amazing leader. And so, does that make sense?
Yeah, I love what Seth says, and I'll repeat it a little bit louder. Is that he gives the example of Jesus Christ, that he didn't do anything only if the Father said how to do it, and he showed the example of following first before leading. But I think it's an example of leadership that if you are willing to follow, willing to also be inspired by others, and then lead, then you're not leading from an ego of like, oh, I know it all, follow me. And because then it's about you. And I think in the video he said like the first few leaders, their goal is to make sure it's not about them, but to inspire others about what's the cause, what's the bigger picture. Why would you follow? Why would you join? And this is just, of course, really funny with the music, but make it not about you. And I think if you're not willing to also follow others or be inspired, then the circle isn't round. And I always say that's why no matter what you do in doTERRA, outside of doTERRA, if you want to inspire others, also be inspired. If you want to be able to coach others, get coaching yourself. So in English, I think they say you got to eat your own cooking. So whatever you prescribe, you also prescribe yourself. So because then the circle is round, and it's not like this ego of like, oh, I'll tell everybody what to do, and nobody can inspire me. Then the circle isn't round. So I think we discussed it that as a leader, it's really important to do your own work, to work on yourself, to do personal development. It's very, very crucial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing that stood out to me with this topic is true leadership is leading yourself first. That's the most important thing. You know, often as leaders, you come in and you go, oh, I've got to lead all these people. How do I show up for them? Actually, the very first thing you need to learn to do is how to lead yourself. And this is there's many ways, right, of doing that. But firstly, I think it's with those limiting thoughts that come up. You know, you need to be able to really own who you are and be a strength to yourself and learn how to take yourself through those different journeys of overcoming your own mind, right? Because once you can do that, then you can stand strong and nothing will affect you. And it's not that as leaders, you've made it and you need to be this perfect leader of just strength all the time. It's actually a lot about being vulnerable. You know, being a true leader is being okay to be vulnerable as well. You know, showing yourself in every way and showing to your team and those around you that doesn't stop you. You know, so it's not about, you know, having those weaknesses and crumbling under them and moaning to your team, and that's not the way. But it's okay to have these weaknesses and it's okay to be vulnerable, but also showing your team how you show up and how you've learned to take yourself through that. So for example, what I've learned and I'm still learning is sometimes there are these limiting thoughts that come and I know them so well now, I'm like, you again? No thanks. And I can just kind of ignore them, right? And sometimes that's the way. And there's other times that I'm really feeling something that can take me out of action. You know, those things that sometimes just really throw you off your course. And I've learned that, you know, trying to be the best leader I can is recognizing how to take myself through those things and to move on from them quickly. So I've learned to be able to process those emotions, to allow them to come up, to really see them for what they are, and to work through them in a way that's not taking me out of my line, if you like, my line to my goal for weeks on end, that it has sometimes done in the past. Like, it can take you outright. So learning how to lead yourself through whatever comes your way, you can then be a leader for others.
And I think we, what Rebecca says is really talking about leadership in doTERRA, right? Because if we talk about leadership in the world, we see so many different examples, right? How leaders can even be successful, right? In a way. But the system and the model of doTERRA, many of the things that make people successful in leadership in the world will not work in doTERRA. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we do not have any stick to make people afraid. You cannot fire people. Mm-hmm. You cannot make people make more or less money. There's no, you know, there's not this, oh, you're a friend, now you get better position, you get better money. There's no such thing. So a lot of the things that are fear-based leadership, they will not work in doTERRA. A lot of power-driven leadership doesn't work in doTERRA. So making manipulation, forcing methods, they don't work in doTERRA. So there's only that's why I really love the model, to be honest, because it only actually really works if we're side by side. We cannot be top down, tell somebody what to do, treat them like an employee. What happens? They do something for 2 months and they're gone. They're like, I'm not here for, I can do a job somewhere else, get paid better, you know, I don't want to have a job. So in doTERRA, it only works side by side and to be inspirational and to have a long-term commitment and long-term relationship that can blossom. This is the only way how doTERRA relationships work and how doTERRA leadership works. All the other things, they don't work. So for some of us, we have to unlearn things. Maybe we learn in corporate or in our jobs. These leverages of power, they will not work at all. At all, right? Laughing is recognizing. And in doTERRA, it's, you know, as a leader, you know, all these things, they don't work. But what does work is being side by side, being authentic. And there's some things that you're not protected in doTERRA that maybe in corporate you are, and which is boundaries. In normal corporate, it's much more like you leave things behind. And in doTERRA, sometimes we're like, oh, I give myself everything all day long. I'm available for everybody. And you get empty, right? So as a leader, your responsibility, number one, is to set your own boundaries, to take care of you. And it's really difficult because most of us are people pleasers. We are givers. We are helpers. We are save the worlders. And these people, they put other people first, which is fun, which is inspiring for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and then we're empty. And maybe even angry at people that taken from us. And we have given so much. And these are things that most of the pioneers in the beginning, we have learned the hard way. We did not set boundaries. Maybe we take up too much responsibilities on our shoulder. In the other group, somebody said like, oh yeah, a leader fixes problems. A leader is always inspiring. A leader is example. But you know, it has boundaries. Like, it might be good to inspire someone to fix their own problems. Because it feels really good to be the important person that fixes the problems. It makes us important. It makes us feel very, I'm a good leader. You know, I'm doing good. I fixed their problem. They can make it to convention. I'll pay their ticket. Let come. And most of us been there. And, oh, wow, they don't have money for LRP. I have an idea. And you have unlimited ideas how to fix problems. But, you know, it feels really good. But at some point, it keeps people small. It keeps people small, and it keeps them on your back. And I think in leadership, in doTERRA, it's very important to have boundary so that people carry themselves. And I always say, in doTERRA, every level has a new devil. So in every level of your business, you are faced with something of yourself, something you have to face. A devil, a dragon, whatever you want to name it. But I always say, I have to fight my devil, I have to fight my dragon, and everybody in my team has to fight their own dragon. And in the past, I've tried to fight many people's dragons, but it never worked. It never worked. So now I make a decision. I only team up with people who fight dragons, people who fight their own dragon. Maybe it doesn't work, maybe they don't have the energy now, maybe later, but it doesn't mean I'm going to jump in their cave and fight their dragon. They have to fight their own. Because this way I can keep equal relationship. Because I am not father figure, I don't want to be mother figure, I don't want to be boss figure, I'm friend. And I can be friend like this. And I think in doTERRA it's very important that you always stay next to each other. And sometimes us people pleasers, us fixers, with the best of intentions, I've been there many years, but we've actually hurt people because it keeps them small. Because we've become very important in their life as a leader who fixed their problem. We might even help them to gold, platinum, or diamond. But we have diamonds that went all the way back to Premier because we helped them so much, and when we didn't, they didn't fight their own dragon. Boom, 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 boom. And they're angry for us because we don't carry them anymore. So I speak from experience, and I think this is a really important part in doTERRA leadership. Because we can talk about all the positives, but if we don't set the boundaries, the positives become toxic. Very important.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, as a leader, when you first become a leader, you really feel like, oh, you know, you have to fix everyone's problems. You have to have an answer to everything. And I think that's a lot of also not feeling perhaps good enough to be a leader. You know, like in doTERRA, like in life, you know, anyone that's become a parent, you have no books to become a parent, right? It's the same in doTERRA. Suddenly you're like a premier, then you're silver, and then you're gold, and you're suddenly like, oh gosh, at gold I thought I would know all the answers. I thought I'd be able to lead people, and you know, and I'd be this very self-assured leader. And it's not the case, right? So sometimes I feel like as leaders, and I've certainly fallen into this trap, to prove that I feel good enough, I overgive. So kind of as Willem was saying, I over-show up. I really want to, show people that I'm good enough by giving them all the answers. And this was really draining, so draining, and very heavy as well. And it's not a way to create leaders. So now with my calls, you know, if people come to me and ask for the answers, I like to switch it around. And if you're silent long enough and wait for their answer, they will come up with their own answers. You know, so if they're asking for a solution to the problem, I'll ask them, well, what do you think? How do you think you could go about this? You know, all of us are our own leaders. So us as leaders is about helping people to see the leader inside of them from the very beginning. You know, you don't need to wait for your new builder to be an elite or a premier for them to start leading themselves, right? Our job as leaders is to give that belief to them right from the beginning, helping them to see that they can do it, that they can lead their business, that they can come up with their own ideal business, an ideal strategy that's going to fit with them, right? So definitely not trying to fix all their problems, but empowering them right from the beginning and creating that leadership.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think what Rebecca said, a leader has to lead themselves first. And leading yourself first also means take responsibility for your own trauma, your own triggers, your own healing. Because we all have these triggers. A people pleaser, I am a recovering people pleaser. People pleasers become people pleasers because mommy or daddy were not super present. And we felt as children we had to do a lot to show that we're good enough. And then we got the attention. And when mommy and daddy is happy, then we are allowed to take our space. This is what we learn unconsciously. So this is what we do with the team. When everybody's happy, I feel I deserve to be me. But when only one person is unhappy, I work really hard to make them happy. It's my trauma. I think I'm doing good. I can even explain that I'm being a good leader. I fix their problem. But it was for my trauma trigger, you know. And I actually do it for myself because I want to feel good. I want to belong. So I want to make everybody happy. So we have to make the responsibility to figure out, do we have triggers? I think everybody has triggers. If you come from the best of families or if you come from broken homes, everybody has Maybe you had too good of a family. You learn something. You know, everybody has something you have to figure out that you're projecting in your team. So taking responsibility of your past triggers, traumas, whatever, it's very, very important. So I would say self-development sometimes is really focused on our skills, but it's also self-love and self-healing. And these things are on the tip of the spear. If you're a leader, you want to make this #1 priority. And sometimes we think, oh, put others first. And us people pleasers are like, make it literally. We make everybody else happy, and if there's something left, it's for us. But first we have to fill our own cup, otherwise we run empty. So I think this self-care and these boundaries, it's especially in this DOTERRA culture, sometimes it just gets swallowed up in service. Because service is very good, but service without boundary will eat you up. And I think this is really important if you want to enjoy doTERRA long term. And you want to give the example for leaders that also want to do this for long term. We want to do this, you know, we want to build something in doTERRA for the next 20, 30, 40 years with people that can keep blossoming. And sometimes they can step back, like, okay, we had 2 small children the last 5 years, you know, we had to step back a little bit to make room for them. So like everybody of us has these moments where like we have to be able to set boundaries because other life things are more priority. So I think leadership means taking care really good of yourself as well.
Absolutely. It's actually my #1 thing now I talk to people about when we're talking about the activities of building their business. It's like, first of all, the absolute priority is you, because there's no way you can lead yourself, and you certainly can't lead anybody else or even attract anyone else to you unless your cup is full, right? So it feels like it's the most selfish thing to do, but it's actually the most selfless thing to do is to fill your cup. So you're always serving from an overflowing cup, right?
It's a #1 thing that attracts people.
Yes.
Because they will feel that there's healing, there's love where you are, there's healing where you are, and there's abundance where you are, and there's healthy boundaries where you are.
Yeah.
And this attracts people. This attracts people you want in your business. And this also inspires people. They're like, hey, I can do what you do. You do a few things, but you don't do everything. If you fix and do everything for others, most healthy people are like, I never want to be like you. I'll do something else.
Yes.
So you want to attract people that feel like, okay, I can do this and stay sane and stay happy. So this is really important because most people will look at how you are instead of listen to what you say because you attract who you are.
Yeah, and they'll get a feeling from you as well, right? So if you're a drained person going around trying to fix everyone's problems and looking exhausted, say, come do this business with me.
You might attract a few other crazy ones like it.
You're going to attract the people you want to attract. So it's really important to do that for yourself. And the word inspire, the Latin foundation of that is to breathe life into. So if you want to breathe life into others, even the person you're talking to every single day, you must breathe life into yourself, right? So it's one of the things that breathe life into you. And it doesn't have to be like a 2-hour activity, because some of you will be thinking, I've got such a busy schedule, and this is how my mind worked. And when I first started doing doTERRA, I was so busy, I was like, right, me has to go. That was the #1 thing to go. Yeah. And that was my biggest mistake. Looking back, that was my biggest mistake. So when I reached Prezi, I got serious burnout because I hadn't looked after myself. I hadn't inspired myself. I was trying to inspire others from this empty cup. So I feel really passionate about that. And alongside that, what's also important, Willem mentioned it before, is that self-love, you know? Like as a leader, it's really, again, starting with yourself, loving yourself. So all these thoughts that we have, we're often self-judging ourselves. And if we're doing that, we're going to attract more of that. And we're going to get affected more by that. So as you rise up into leadership, you become more exposed. It's just a thing. And people are going to love you, and some people are going to project onto you their own limiting thoughts, right? So it's not about you all the time. Sometimes it's good to listen and identify, and if you're coming from a balanced place, you can see the things that are helpful and the things that aren't, right? And you won't be pulled down by them. But if you're judging yourself and then others judge you, that's really hard as a leader. You're going to crumble under that. So it's really important to, as we said, feed yourself, love yourself, and be that solid rock, and you work on yourself every day so that you can then see the difference between the ones that can just bounce off you, and you can also be humble enough and strong enough to go, okay, maybe there's something I can change here. This is coming up a few times. Maybe this is something I need to change, and not get hurt by it, but to be more powerful with that. Does that make sense? So that's really important too.
And to add to Rebecca, the biggest thing I have seen in myself and my leaders is that helping people believe more in themselves is the best thing you can do in your business.
Yeah.
But you can only inspire people to believe in themselves the way you believe in yourself.
Yes.
You can't fake it. You can't fake
No.
it. And I've first been able to learn this on the receiving end, not on the giving end, on the receiving end. When I joined DOTERRA, I was 30-year-old. I was a graffiti artist. I had never done network marketing. I had never done anything with healing. I had never done anything like this. My wife was 20 years old. She just came from school. And this is how we joined DOTERRA in 2013. And I remember going to meetings. Some meetings were with Seth. Some meetings were with the CEO, Dave Sterling. Some meetings were with my friend, Frank. And what all of these meetings had in common is that the way they looked at me and the way they spoke at me, I could feel that they believed more in me than I believed in myself. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, maybe they're right. And it just inspired this hope inside of me that maybe they're right. I'll figure it out. And I remember I wasn't even elite at all. And the first, one of the biggest meetings that had impacted me was when you came to Amsterdam. It was a room, was this big, 30 people, and Dave Sterling was there also. And I had a conversation with Dave Sterling, the founder of DOTERRA, and he looked at me and he's like, you guys are going to make way more money and become more successful than you even can imagine. And we haven't even hit the rank elite yet. We didn't even know how this business worked yet. But the way he looked at me, I knew it was not a trick. It was not something like candy he threw out everywhere to see if somebody picked it up. But the way he looked at me, I felt like he was inspired to tell me this because he felt it inside. And I think sometimes we can be inspired. We can be inspired if you believe in a God or a higher power to say something to somebody. And if it's real, somebody will feel like it helps their belief grow. And this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing. Because then you help people believe in themselves. Stephen Covey wrote a book, it's called The 8th Habit, and it's about finding your inner voice and helping other people to find their own. And this is really what it's about, is to help your own belief in yourself, whatever your inspiration is. For some people it helps to have a higher power to help this with this, but to really have this deep core belief, who you really are. And to help others to discover this for themselves. Because this is unlimited. And then you have unlimited influence in your business. And influence is not the same as control. Control is overrated. This is not the same as managing people or telling people what to do. But this is inspiring and having influence. And influence is really what still keeps you free. Because it's not you have to tell people every day what to do. But also it helps other people to start believing in themselves, and they start inspiring others to believe in themselves. And I really believe DOTERRA is a vehicle for this. It's a vehicle for this. It's a vehicle for growth, and it's a vehicle for people to start believing in the good in themselves and to start becoming leaders like this.
You know, no one can be you as good as you, right? So we're all professional at that. We're professional at being ourselves. And that was a bit like what starting the video showed. As leaders, it's about helping people find their unique skills, what their unique talents are, and building that up and seeing the leaders in them already and seeing their potential and helping them to see their own potential. So really putting that belief in them, as Willem said, you know, that's so important because as soon as you ignite that belief in them and they believe they can do it for themselves and you keep nurturing that and keep kind of saying, yes, look, you're doing it, just kind of helping them along the way, then they'll grow and they'll turn into leaders much more quickly than if you just kind of tell them what to do, right? And part of that also is about giving them opportunities. So as a leader, as soon as you can, give them opportunities on your team calls, you know, on whatever, get them teaching their own classes ASAP, get them to take those little steps because it's by doing the action right? Like we've all felt that. You know, before you do the action, those limiting thoughts can get you. And then you do the action, and that's when you get the belief. And that's how you can help your leaders grow more by more, step by step. And also, like, by letting go of your own ways of doing it for them. You know, that can sometimes be hard, letting go that you think your way perhaps is the right way. That is sometimes a challenging thing, right? So allowing your new builder to be able to do it their way and really helping them and praising them for how they're doing it their way as well.
It's good to communicate what needs to be done and why it needs to be done, but sometimes it's very good to let somebody figure out the how themselves, because everybody's how can be different in doTERRA. And if you're too much in the detail of like, this is how you need to do it, it can make people feel like children or like followers. I was very happy there was nobody telling me how to do it. My upline Frank, he introduced me to doTERRA, and Frank was way too busy in his other company, so me and my wife figured out the how. And we had help. You came along with your system, other people came along. It gave us different kind of things. We like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. But I was so happy that I didn't have a leader every day telling me how to do it. I would have even started doTERRA. I was like, I'm not looking for a job or somebody to tell me what to do. You want the crazy ones. You want the ones that want to figure it out. You don't want the ones that want to just follow. And these people, the moment you stop telling what to do, they quit. You know, you don't want followers. Yeah. So I think the time is here. Before we wrap up, is there anything you guys feel like, hey, this is what I take away from us rambling here on stage, or things that you feel like, hey, this is something I like to share before we end?
Yeah, anything you can add as well, because you're all leaders.
Yep.
So anything you have would add to this as well. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, boundaries. Working on that
Boundaries. Yeah. It's tricky.
learning the hard way.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
I thought that you can only help others believe in themselves the way that you believe in yourself. That was awesome. I don't know that I ever understood that until now. Wow. Because if you don't, it's the same thing as loving another person. You can't love unless you love yourself. It's the same thing. But I knew that. I just didn't understand the belief thing. And the thing that's interesting is I've been able to believe in others really well, but I also believe in me. So it's not. I didn't realize that there was a connection there.
No.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why.
It's very fluent and natural for you.
Right. Like I didn't find it difficult to believe in others.
Yeah, it's not a manipulating trick or.
Right, but it's also not hard for me to believe in me.
yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, I guess if I didn't think I could do it, then I probably wouldn't think anyone else could do it either.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
love that.
I started really believing in myself just naturally, and so this is why I just grew.
Yeah.
And right now it's in the place of like, oh, I really do this. This is obviously why things are like that. So 100%.
Things are always like this.
Yeah. I think part of that belief in yourself as well is that belief that you'll stay committed to something. So I think like being a leader, you know what you want, and you know kind of the route to get there, and it's that commitment. And it's like, when no one's looking, do you keep to your commitments? And that helps to build belief as well. Because once you've said you're going to get somewhere, and you know you can do it, it's like, well, am I committed to those everyday steps? And that's where you can really start to then build that belief up again and help others to do the same by just committing to those little things each day.
Also, sorry, go ahead.
I very much love this part of self-judgment, that it's only like a magnet to, if you're exposed to more projections, that you magnetize this. It's very important. And I found it, I think it's a very fine line, and I found it very challenging. If you're the one who did things the first time, and people look up to you, and they just ask you if you can show them how to do, like, to be this empowering, not the mothering and fathering.
Yes.
It's a fine line.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
took a lot of notes for that fine line.
Amazing. Oh,
And
brilliant.
the name of the book again is
It's the eighth habit.
8 habits. Yeah.
The eighth habit.
Eight.
The number 8 habit.
It was being how
Yeah.
to do the seminar. Oh, there is a second
Yeah.
8. Okay. Because that's a focus.
There's also another good book called Leadership is Vulnerability, Vulnerability and Leadership by Brené Brown. Have you heard that? I think that's the title.
Everything
It's really
Brene Brown
good.
is good.
Really, because it's about, being vulnerable and you can still be a leader, and about owning that and presenting your vulnerability in a powerful way.
Seth?
I was just going to say that you mentioned at each new level there's a new devil.
Yeah.
And then you said you fight your own dragons, but you can't fight the others' dragons. And you were mentioning too, that kind of related to this, that when people come to you for answers, the key is to help them find their own answers, because the answers do come from within,
Yes.
they really do.
Yeah.
And they just have to trust that. But the reason I say that last part about you can't fight other people's dragons, that's where all of this is so unpredictable, because you don't know who's willing to fight their dragon.
Yeah.
And you can
True.
fight their dragons for them, you can,
Yeah.
but then they fall apart.
Yeah.
Yes, at some point.
Because they've
Yeah.
never had their own victories.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they,
It's very tempting
And they haven't
too,
got their
because
own
it makes us
confidence.
feel very powerful if we do,
Yeah.
right?
like here, and
We come in
plus
as
you
the
think,
hero,
I'm a
blah,
great
blah.
leader, and
Exactly.
if you
Yeah.
follow me, I'm going to take away all your problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very tempting.
Talking about insects, it's like when you open a cocoon for a butterfly,
Yeah,
she
uh-huh.
can
Yeah.
fly after.
The
Yeah.
same.
She need the
Or break the egg of a chicken.
Yeah, exactly. Then they die, don't they? They can't. They're not strong.
And
Yeah.
this has been hard for me, because everyone asks me about my son, who's in DOTERRA with me,
Yeah.
he's doing well. But it has tested him to the core. And
And
not
you,
just
right?
As a leader, but as his father, I'm like,
Yes.
"Stay here, let me fight you."
Yes. Yeah.
I've been there,
I
done
can
that.
imagine.
But I actually have
Yeah.
to let him fall on his face and just eat
Yeah.
it, and it's the hardest thing for me to do.
Wow.
Because I'm like,
That's
I don't
hard.
want you to do this.
Yeah.
He was trying so hard to be a founder of the US, the 2.0 founder.
Wow.
And he went through hell trying to get back. I mean, some of the worst stuff you can imagine in building a business, he went through it. And I remember praying, and I was going, Lord, please. I'm like, he deserves this. Like, he is trying so hard. Please, just give it to him. Like, I was so frustrated. And then God spoke to me, and he goes, do you really want your son to experience this kind of wealth without first passing through the furnace of affliction?
Wow.
And I had to say, no, you're right.
Yeah.
And I had to let him fight his dragon. And it's been very hard.
Wow. I love that. And it's just a reminder that this is our journey. Our life is not the end point. Our life is now, today, this present moment, what we're going through right now, that is our success. Every time we show up and face each little challenge that we do, that's our success. The end result is lovely and it's quite empty. It's actually the journey. If it's the only thing, exactly. So it is. I feel like we're on this earth to become the best people we can possibly be. And so we've all got our individual journeys, and this is where it helps us when we compare and think, oh, it looks so easy perhaps for that person. We don't want to have their journey because we're not them. We want to become the best people that we are, right? So we've got to trust that everything that comes at us in life is for our learning and growth. And I love that. And then when we get to the journey, then we'll own it and we'll be ready for it.
You know what? It's kind of scary.
Yeah. And exciting. It is scary. It is scary, but exciting.
Staying the same, though.
Exactly.
Say it again.
Yes.
What is more scary is staying the same.
Exactly.
That is the scariest thing. Yeah. Not reaching your potential and just, yeah. The comfort zone's okay for a little bit, but not for long. That's cool. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was lovely. Thanks so much. Oh, yes. Self-love, yes.
Your cups also.
Yes.
Yeah, because I start also to do maybe too much.
Yeah.
Then my cups. And then I cannot inspire.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, it's key. Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, one more.
Yep.
You are next.